This right here might be a bigger deal than it looks. And it's not about the name itself, it's about what it says regarding how the Browns are thinking about the quarterback position. Because if you really slow down and break it down, the story isn't just Browns might draft Ty Simpson. It feels more like a signal that the team still isn't 100% sure what they've got in Shedeur Sanders. And that changes a lot. Let's lay this thing out. Right now, officially, Shedeur is QB1. He's coming in with hype, pedigree, all that buzz about being the guy to finally steady the ship after years of chaos at QB. But at the same time, the roster hasn't exactly been built like a team that's fully handing the keys to a young QB and just riding it out. They've poured serious money into the offensive line. That usually screams, "We're trying to win now." That's not a slow rebuild. That's trying to compete right away. And here's the part that stands out. Even with that approach, the Browns didn't go out and bring in a reliable veteran. Deshaun Watson. That's its own situation. You can't really call him a solid option anymore. 2 major Achilles injuries in 2 years. Inconsistent play lately. At this point, he's more of a question mark than any kind of safety net. So, in reality, the team is betting on Shedeur, but without that full protection, you usually see when a franchise is all in on a young QB. And that's where Ty Simpson starts to make sense. Not as immediate competition, but as insurance. Because his profile is pretty specific. He's not a plug-and-play guy who's going to walk in and take over. He's got solid processing, a decent mental foundation, but he clearly lacks experience. Only 15 starts in college. That matters. So yeah, he's exactly the kind of QB you draft thinking midterm. And that, to me, is the core of this whole thing. If the Browns really take Simpson in the second round, the message is pretty clear. We believe in Shedeur, but not enough to not have a plan B developing at the same time. Now, let's bring this to what actually happens on the field. What really changes? First, locker room dynamics. Quarterback is the most sensitive position on any roster. When you draft another QB early, you're automatically creating pressure. Doesn't matter what anyone says publicly. If Shedeur comes out hot, great. Simpson stays quiet, learns, develops. But if Shedeur is up and down, which is totally normal for a young QB, the conversation flips real quick. Fans start calling for a change, media turns up the heat, and the coaching staff has to deal with it every single week. And then there's Todd Monken. His connection with Simpson isn't nothing. That's not coincidence. That's familiarity, knowing the player, trusting the profile. When a head coach has his guy sitting on the bench, that changes things, even if he never says it out loud. So in practice, you're creating a situation where the starter has to produce early because there's someone the coach already trusts waiting in the wings. Now, my honest read on all this. I get the logic. I really do. The Browns have been burned way too many times at quarterback to just bet everything on one guy without a real backup plan. But at the same time, it also shows a bit of structural hesitation. Because if you truly believe Shedeur is your franchise QB, you build around him and protect him. You don't immediately line up a potential replacement in the pipeline. And that's where the risk comes in. Best case scenario, Shedeur delivers, plays well, locks himself in as the clear starter. Simpson sits for a year or two, develops, sharpens his reads, becomes more consistent, and either turns into a valuable trade piece or a high-level backup. That's the dream. Healthy organization, depth at QB, stability. Now the worst case, Shedeur starts off inconsistent. Not bad enough to bench outright, but not good enough to fully convince anyone. Simpson starts flashing in practice. The fan base splits. And suddenly, you've got that classic NFL situation. 2 quarterbacks. And deep down, neither one truly locked in. That can stall an entire team. And there's another detail people aren't talking about much. The way this Browns roster is built, it's not a wait-around team. Strong O-line, potential big investment at wide receiver, competitive defense, that's a win-now window. Teams like that don't usually have a ton of patience for developing quarterbacks. So in reality, Shedeur might not have as much time as it seems. And maybe that's the real reason behind this possible move. It's not just depth, it's controlled pressure. It's giving the coaching staff an internal option without having to scramble later. Now, let me be straight. Would I make this move? I've got my doubts. Personally, I think a young QB needs a stable environment, and this kind of decision can create noise way too early. If it were a veteran backup, I'd get it more. But another young QB with starter upside? That gets messy. On the flip side, knowing the Browns' history, you understand the trauma. This team has missed at QB way too many times. Maybe they're just trying not to get stuck with one plan again. At the end of the day, this isn't really about Ty Simpson. It's about how much the franchise truly believes in Shedeur Sanders. And honestly, this potential move suggests that belief isn't all the way there yet. Now let me ask you straight, dog pound style. If you were the Browns GM right now, are you riding with Shedeur no matter what? Or are you grabbing a plan B in the draft, too?